Wherever you're listening to the show, please subscribe to the show so that you are getting notified about every new episode that comes out. And leave a rating of the show so that other people can know about it. We can move up the algorithm so other people can work on their game the same way you're working on your game. Now let's get to it. I have a text line where I send out a free daily motivation text to everyone in my community every morning. If you want to get that text me at this number right now, 305-384-6894. 305-384-6894. Straight to your phone, free, every day, daily motivation. Send me a text right now. If someone doesn't have objective evidence with which to defend a position, it is not a truth. It is an opinion.
StrayAllDay.com.
Pretty exceptional.
Work on your game.
I like the approach.
Work on your fucking game.
Everybody relates to what Dre's saying in a different way.
Work on your game.
I like the way he thinks.
Work on your fucking game.
I like the frameworks that he's put together.
Work on your game.
And I would highly recommend it to anybody that's trying to work on their game.
Work on your fucking game.
I think it's a good approach. It's a different approach, too.
Hey, you, work on your game.
Gave me something really good.
Work on your game. StrayAllDay.com.
And his philosophy makes a lot of sense.
Not only work on your game, perfect your craft.
Work on your game.
He knows how to communicate in such a fabulous way.
I can't say it enough.
Work on your game. You are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get to use those of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today we are talking about the difference. And yes, there is a difference between your truth, or if you were saying it, you would say my truth, and the truth. They are not the same thing, and you will have a full understanding of why that is by the end of today's masterclass. Now, before we get into this, first of all, let me tell everybody I have a daily motivation text that I send out for free every single day to everyone who's in my text community. This message is guaranteed to keep you focused, sharp, and on point. You want to receive that message, and I don't see any reason why you wouldn't. All you need to do is text me at my number so that you get in this text every day. My number is 305-384-6894. Text me at that number right now. So every day when I send out the daily motivation, you'll be on the list and you will be on the receiving end of that message. So text me right now. And while you're doing that, let me get into explaining why we're even talking about this. So this whole my truth thing, this is a relatively recent social phenomenon that I've been tracking and noticing. And I want to make sure that I'm on the record as speaking on this. So basically, I take anything that I have an opinion on, strong enough opinion on, or a position that seems to go against the grain of what I see a lot of people doing. I go ahead and make an episode about it, just so if anybody asks me about it in the future, I don't have to keep explaining the same thing over and over again. I can just send them to whatever episode of my show that I've talked about it. This is one that I've seen getting used a lot. And for many different reasons on many different subjects. It doesn't even matter the particular subject, but it doesn't matter the particular subject because this principle applies no matter what the subject happens to be. So I want to make sure I'm on the record here. I don't need to give too much intro because everything I'm going to talk about is going to be in a point. So let's get into it. Point number one. Topic once again, is there's a difference between your truth and the truth. Number one, a lot of people have started using this phrase of calling things their truth as a catch-all. That means anything that falls under that umbrella must be accepted and allowed. It must be tolerated and it cannot be challenged. That's really where the my truth thing comes in, because you could easily just say that something is your opinion. I mean, because if I say something is my opinion, then I'm telling you, all right, that's my perspective. That's the way that I see things. But the thing is, if I tell you that something's my opinion, then what do I leave the door open to? I'll leave the door open to you challenging me, to you questioning my opinion, to you offering a counterpoint to my opinion. Now, and all of those things are fair and there's all part of the game. But if I tell you that something is my truth, well, how do you question or challenge or offer a counterpoint to another person's truth? Well, you really can't. I mean, if something's the truth, then there is no questioning it. There is no challenging it. There is no counterpoint to it. So this my truth thing is really just a clever It's actually not that clever. Well, it's clever depending on who you're using it on, but let's just call it clever. We'll just be generous and call it a clever little word game that a lot of people like to play these days that basically preempts anyone from challenging whatever they're going to say by calling it their truth. I completely 100% reject this tactic. It's a cheap tactic, but it's clever because it works on a whole lot of people, especially people who are afraid of challenging anything that seems to be a prevailing idea. If I come to your family's house, for example, you invite me to your house for dinner or for Thanksgiving, and I get in your house and I'm looking around and I say, you know what? It's my truth that your newborn baby is ugly. It's my truth that your grandma's a hoe. That doesn't mean that you have to accept it. All right. Just because it's my truth doesn't mean you have to agree with it. Doesn't mean you have to accept it. And it doesn't mean you have to allow it to stand. Calling something my truth is not a blanket that forces you to accept anything that I say and vice versa. Just because you call something your truth doesn't mean I have to accept it. Doesn't mean I have to be okay with it. And it does not mean that I'm not allowed to challenge it. For example, if you are born with a penis as a reproductive organ, but you insist that now you have decided that you're a woman, calling it your truth that you're a woman does not make you a woman. All right. Now, I know that there are some people out there who actually do believe that calling something your truth just means it needs to be accepted. No, it's bullshit. That's not true. If you were born with a vagina and you decide that you're a man, you are not a man just because you said that is your truth. You're not a man, period, regardless of why. And just because you call it your truth doesn't mean that you're a man. And someone telling me that I have to refer to you as whatever pronouns that you decided to adopt because you decided that you're not the thing that you were born as, that's bullshit. I completely reject that. Fuck your pronouns. All right. Whatever you were, if you were born with a penis, you're a man. You're born with a vagina, you're a woman. Calling it your truth doesn't change anything. If you have an opinion that I disagree with or a perspective with which I disagree, and you say that that perspective is your truth, that doesn't mean that I can't challenge your opinion. And it doesn't mean that you don't have to answer for the perspective that you put out there in the world. Now, you could choose to not respond to it, but it doesn't mean nobody is allowed to challenge it. And this is the preemption that has been going on, that people have been preempted from questioning, challenging, saying anything against certain things because somebody is calling it their truth. This whole thing stems from the woke movement. And I'm not saying woke created this necessarily, but woke has exacerbated it. Let's just call it that. That's the best way that I can describe what woke has done. And I talked about wokeness in episode 18, 19. So any of you want to learn more about my perspectives on wokeness, if you can't read the context clues, actually, you should read the context clues that I'm giving you here and go listen to episode 18, 19 so you can understand it. But people have resorted to calling things their truth instead of calling it what it actually is, which is their opinion. Everyone is allowed to have an opinion. All right? I don't mind whatever opinion you want to have. Fine, as long as you can label it what it is, which is your opinion. All right. If we have different opinions, that's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing we have different opinions because every human being is unique. No two human beings should have the exact same opinion on every single topic. It's damn near impossible for two people to have the same opinion on everything. Now, maybe they just haven't talked about enough things to find somewhere where they don't see things eye to eye. But everybody's going to have different opinions on certain things. If you talk about enough subjects, you're going to find some differences between you and anybody, even someone who's your best friend. But if people aren't even calling opinions anymore, now they're calling it their truth so that they can shield themselves from being challenged or having to answer to whatever it is that they're saying. This is a sign of the wokeness. This is a sign of the femininity being forced on everyone, male and female, this feminine energy of not wanting to be challenged, not having to defend anything. You just want to say something and you just want it to be accepted blindly, regardless of whether it can stand up to criticism or stand up to any type of critical observation. Let's just put it that way. These are all symptoms and results of what happens when we push too much feminine energy into the world, into society. Nobody wants to defend anything. Nobody wants to have to stand on anything. You just want to believe whatever you want to believe, have whatever opinion that you want to have, and you want to preempt anyone from questioning or challenging that thing. That all comes from the root of, it comes from the seed. These are the flowers of the seed of wokeness. Oh, now this is my truth. So it's not my opinion, which you can challenge, but it's my truth, which you can't challenge. It's merely a word game. Again, a way that people are defending, and not really defending it, but basically blocking you from challenging their perspectives without them having to actually defend them. And we've seen many examples of this. When I talked about critical race theory, I believe that was episode 1886. I talked about dissecting critical race theory. And when I talked about the anti-racism book, which is episode 1788 through 1791, When I talked about wokeness in episode 18, 19, all of these groups or movements, if you even want to call them movements, and some of them are actually moving. So we do have to give them credit for moving because they are making movements and they are making things happen on some levels. Episode 1616, when I talked about what Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter get wrong, when I talked about in episode 1825, why I'm not a fan of Black Lives Matter. Many of these movements and theories and social agendas, let's just call them that, they have their leaders, the people who are, and they are leading people somewhere. I don't know where they're leading them, but they're leading them somewhere. So we have to call them leaders. They will put their ideas out there, whatever those ideas happen to be, and then they do not allow themselves to be challenged or questioned, and they won't go and talk to, at least have public discussion with anyone who may offer some criticism of whatever it is that they're espousing. They will only talk to and they will only engage with people who are pretty much agreeing with everything that they're saying. This is exactly what I mean. These are people calling these things their truth. But if it's not challenged, well, of course, you could accept anything as your truth. I could say that I'm a dinosaur, and if that's my truth and everyone around me is just going to affirm that I am a dinosaur and I just keep saying it, then eventually I might actually start to believe it. Napoleon Hill said this in Think and Grow Rich. You repeat any ideas to yourself often enough, even if it is not based in any type of fact or provable reality, you eventually start to believe it. Doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be based in anything true. Moving on to point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is there is a difference between your truth and the truth. It is fine to have your truth if you are merely using your truth to mean your opinion and you are honest about it. For example, I can say it is my truth that my college basketball coach, who I wasn't in the program my senior year of college, I can say it's my truth that he should have had me on the team. All right. It's simply my opinion. I'm just calling it my truth instead of labeling it what it is, which is an opinion. I'm fine with someone doing that because I can see through it when people are playing these games. But I cannot say that it is my truth that I was, for example, a better basketball player than LeBron James in my days because I have no factual information with which to defend my argument. Although it is still an opinion. I can have that opinion, but I can't say that it is my truth because a truth is, again, there's a difference between the truth and an opinion. Truth is something that can pretty much be proven, and there isn't a whole lot of argument you can give to a truth. An opinion, you're putting it out there knowing that it can be challenged. All right. The word truth, the definition is the quality or state of being true. That which is true or in accordance with fact or reality, or a fact or belief that is accepted as true. I mean, that's what truth means. So if you're going to call something true, that means it's based in some type of reality. It's based in something that is provable in accordance with fact or reality. All right. That means it is provable. It is observable. Everybody can see it. And there's not a ton of challenge you can give to a truth. You can give any kind of challenge to an opinion. And because I don't have factual information to back up my claim that I was better than LeBron James, I cannot force you to accept and co-sign my truth, quote unquote, because I have no objective evidence with which to defend it. Do you understand? If someone doesn't have objective evidence with which to defend a position, it is not a truth. It is an opinion. And that's fine to have an opinion. You can have as many as you want. Everybody has a ton of them. Some of us are more open about sharing ours than others, but everyone has a whole bunch of them. But you have to have objective evidence to defend something you're going to call the truth. Now, you don't have to have evidence to defend an opinion. You got whatever opinion you want. It can be completely ridiculous, according to somebody else at least. They may be honest to you, but it can be completely ridiculous, but you're allowed to have it. But if you're going to call something a truth, that means you can prove it. Now, you don't have to prove an opinion. But when I call something an opinion, I'm leaving myself open to be challenged. If I tell you something is a truth, I'm saying I believe it, and nothing you say is going to dissuade me from believing it. That's what it means when someone says something is their truth. It's a bullshit argument and a bullshit position for people to take because it's basically a house that's built on sand. You know what happens to houses that are built on sand? As soon as a big wave comes in, the entire house collapses. The challenge is, or the smart thing that a lot of people who are using this my truth thing, this new catchphrase, my truth, the smart thing that they've done is, even though their house is built on sand, what they've done is built a dam in front of the ocean so that no waves can knock their house down. In other words, they're not allowing themselves to be challenged in an open marketplace by anybody who might knock down the bullshit points that they're making. I talked about this in point number 7 in the Work on Your Game commandments, the marketplace, the open marketplace commandment, that your arguments and your points and your accomplishments are only as strong as what you go up against to prove them. Only as strong as what you go up against to achieve them. And if you have a position that you are standing on, yet you won't go into the open marketplace and defend that position, then your position is not a real position. All you're doing is you're basically staying inside of your bubble where it's safe and you can't be challenged in an open market. Well, you ain't shit. Now, you haven't actually proved it because you haven't beaten anybody. All right, this is the whole point. That's what this whole thing is about. You haven't gone up against anything that could beat you, then you're not an actual champion. Not a champion to a position where you could lose and you win. So you cannot use this your truth blanket phrase to indemnify yourself from being inaccurate when it comes to facts or reality, or to block anyone from questioning or challenging your perspective. But this is exactly how it is being misused. And that's why we're making this masterclass here today. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is the difference between your truth and the truth. Understand that truths are malleable and they can change. Again, I may have a truth that says I was better than LeBron. I might think that right now, but I might change my mind about that alleged truth tomorrow. The biggest thing to understand about people using the phrase my truth is just because someone calls something their truth does not mean that it can't be challenged. It doesn't mean that you have to accept it. It doesn't mean you have to go along with whatever parameters they are adding into their truth. Excuse me. This is like an 8-year-old kid or a 15-year-old kid or a 30-year-old person deciding that, all right, I've been a woman my entire life. I was born with a vagina. Everyone recognized me and treated me as a woman and identified me as a woman. But you know what? Now I decided that I'm a man. So now you have to call me he and him. You have to let me use the men's bathroom and all these other things that come with, whatever is going on in that world. I'm not that plugged into it, but all of you have a pretty good idea of what I'm talking about. That when someone decides that this thing is their truth, and then basically they will attack or threaten anyone to preempt you from challenging that. So if I was to say to that person, well, you've been a woman your entire life, how are you all of a sudden a man? Some people look at that and say, I'm using verbal violence against this person because I'm not affirming their truth. Well, fuck their truth. There is no their truth. There is no my truth, your truth, his truth, her truth. There is only one truth. There is one fact. There is one reality. And it is not malleable to be changed in this way. And this is why I'm pointing this out as a word game, because a lot of people call things their truth, but then they go change it from day to day. Well, if it's a truth, it can't keep changing over and over again. Opinions can change. Truths do not. And someone attacking you or punishing you or threatening you in any way because you are not accepting what they decided is their truth just based on their own personal opinion is bullshit. It is unacceptable. And all of us as a whole in society, we cannot accept and allow this to keep going because people will only take this further. When people see that they can get away with it, they'll just keep going and going and going. And as the book Animal Farm said, absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. And when you give people the power to just choose their truths on a day-to-day basis, and then they have everyone afraid to challenge them on the bullshit that they're putting out there, this is going to keep going further and further because this is what human beings do. It's human nature. You would do the same thing. And let's be honest. We all would do the same thing. So I understand why some people have certain arguments. So if they're going to do this, then they'll go further and further and further and further. It's like the slippery slope. It doesn't always happen that way, but I can understand why people can see it that way, as I just explained, and as the book Animal Farm talked about. And understand that you cannot, me nor you or anyone else, you cannot just say any stupid shit that you want to say and then call it your truth as if that means it can't be questioned or that it just must be accepted and everybody has to live by it. That's not acceptable. It is not okay. Just as with facts, if you call something a truth, you must be able to defend it. You have to be able to prove it, and it must stand up to scrutiny. If you cannot take whatever you're doing and stand it up to scrutiny and challenge and still have it standing when it's over, that means you're violating the 7th commandment of work on your game, which is the marketplace commandment, that if you're not putting it out into the marketplace to actually be challenged and have to be defended against anything, then it's not real. It's a house of cards and it need not be respected. All that said, let's recap today's class, which is the difference between your truth and the truth. Again, this is a new social phenomenon. It may come and go. It might stick around. We'll see where it ends up going. But I'm making this so that all of you can start noticing when people are using these basically word games to get you to just accept anything that they say just because they decided that this is what they want to think, at least for today. Point number 1, people are calling things their truth as a catch-all. That means anything that falls under that umbrella of their truth has to be accepted and allowed. I completely reject this. I would suggest that you reject it as well. And in my points, I've explained why you should reject it. So if I say that it's my truth that your baby's ugly, your grandma's a hoe, and your wife is a terrible person, do you have to accept that? And because I said it's my truth? No, those are simply opinions, and you don't have to accept anybody's opinion if you don't want to. But somebody calling it their truth is this, again, it's the new game that people are using to keep you from challenging anything that they say. Point number 2, it is fine to have your truth if you are merely using your truth to mean your opinion. All right, as long as we're clear that what you're really saying is this is my opinion, I'm just calling it my truth because maybe you just want to put more emphasis on it and just get people to think that you believe it, maybe more than you would believe an opinion. Just like I say, it's my truth that I was better than LeBron James. But if I can't prove that, if I can't really defend it with anything, then let's just call it what it actually is, which is an opinion. It's fine to have whatever opinion you want, even if other people think it's ridiculous. But it's a bullshit argument to just say something is your truth, and that means I'm not allowed to question or challenge it. That's a house built on sand. And what a lot of people are doing is blocking the ocean from the ocean's waves from coming in and knocking that house down, because it will fall down as soon as a nice size wave comes and hits that foundation, which is flabby and cheap. Point number 3, truths are malleable and they can change. I may have a truth that thinks I was better than LeBron today, but I might change my mind about that alleged truth, quote unquote, tomorrow. What it really is an opinion. That's why the truths keep changing. Truths don't change day by day. So when someone's using this my truth phrase, and the thing that you need to understand when someone's using this my truth phrase is somebody calling something my truth does not mean it is immune to challenge or immune to question or immune to examination. Okay, just as with facts, if you call something the truth, you have to be able to defend it. And if you're calling it a truth, you got to be able to prove it. And if you can't prove it, it's not a truth, it's an opinion. So just check people for their word games when they're playing this. You're going to see this more and more these days because it's working right now. So more people are going to keep using this until it stops working. So just pay attention, be aware, and stay awake. Not woke, but awake. All that said, text me to get my daily motivation for free every single day, straight to your phone. My number is 305-384-6894. And go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where you can get into my Work on Your Game system, which is my complete system where I've codified all the tools that you will need to get to the top 1% in what you're doing mentally and strategically and apply it to your business and life, along with getting direct coaching from me and access to my full library of training material that I've created over the years. All of that is at workonyourgameuniversity.com. It's the only place you can get it. And that's it. Work on your game. Dre all day. I have a text message line now where every single day from my number, I am sending out a text to everyone in my community with a daily motivation message to keep you sharp, focused, and on point to get started and be energized for your day. If you want to receive my daily motivation text, just send a quick text right now to say hello to this number, 305-384-6894. Again, 305-384-6894. Get my daily motivation text straight to your phone, free of charge, 305-384-6894.